I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. Hassan. Medhi Hasan. I think that's his name. Over here on X, you can see my desk is still a mess. I'll show you what I received. Put this up over here so you can see it in the background. You can see that up there. A bunch of hardware over here for a print farm system. I'm setting up a print farm for my own uses. See, I made all of the artwork on that. Did I make it itself? No, I'm not that talented. My skill set doesn't cover being able to make artwork of that level, paintings and stuff and tapestries. I'm an actual nerd, not a artsy nerd. I know things, lots of things. One thing I know is Medhi Hasan over here is both 1 in 3 slaves who built this country were Muslims. What? Muslims enslaved Africans that wouldn't convert back then. They still do today. They still do it. And the slave ports that were introduced to my relatives were involved in the slave trade, and so the fact that they built the harbor that the ships arrived at, because my ancestors were shipwrights on my father's side. My ancestors, for those of you who don't know, are the De Beers. In my instance, we are the Van De Beers because we were given rights of nobility. And so my father's family anglicized after New Amsterdam was sold to the British. It became New York. But they lived here in the colonies in New Amsterdam building ships. They built ships, mainly they built the piers, the docks and stuff like that. And they worked on laying keels and stuff like that. They didn't do any of the finish work. They were not technical shipwrights. They're called shoremen, technically, and they ran a company that was involved in laying down keels for large sailing ships. Why this is important is because this comment about the Muslims. I know a little bit about the slave trade because my family was, like I said, directly connected to the slave trade in the sole fact that we built ships and ports and piers that were involved in it. And they weren't directly involved as in they owned slaves, but they built the facilities by which slave trafficking occurred. I'm not justifying it. I definitely don't agree with slavery. None of my ancestors did either. That's why they changed their name. And yes, I am related to the family, to the De Beers family. I am related to the De Beers, whom owned the mine that was purchased by Cecil Rhodes when he started the De Beers Diamond Company. Yes, I am related to them. In South Africa, as well as Rhodesia, and the De Beers family. We used to have a huge family, predominantly agriculture, predominantly shipwrighting, and we were ennobled and titled, which is where the Von comes from. We were Von De Beers. Back in the early 90s when my extended family in Holland, this is back when Holland was moving away from England and starting to reunify with the Netherlands. This is long story stuff. They removed the Von from the De Beers Company's name because my family was no longer associating with the Diamond Company because the association with, slavery and blood diamonds and stuff like that it's not something we want to be involved in. And I'm not accusing the De Beers family or the current De Beers family, which is, it's a family-owned shop now, like the company itself. I don't know if they've taken on our name. I don't know I really have no idea anything about them. I've spoken to a few of them, and I know a lot of their customers. A lot of their customers are Jewish. That's why I know so many Jews. There's no position where I say that there's a good or a bad thing with that company, but they were directly involved at one point with slavery, whether they want to admit it or not. So I do know quite a bit about it. This is stuff you won't learn in college. There's a reason why, because they don't want it in university schools. They don't want you to target anybody, and it's none of your business. We are not guilty of anything immoral. We are not amoral. We are 100% against slavery. We oppose it intrinsically. It's very public that we oppose it, because as I represent the family, I have been publicly against it. So 1 in 3 slaves who built this country are Muslims. That's not true, because the Africans, when they were removed from Africa, were enslaved because they wouldn't convert to Islam near the later parts of the slave trafficking from Africa. In the early portions, it was just a pair of tribes that were fighting against each other. And the Dutch, probably maybe one of my relatives, sold them rifles, and they took the rifles, went out and enslaved the other tribe. And that's how it got started in that area. As far as saying that Muslims run all this stuff and we are Muslims, that's patently ridiculous. We can map the territory that was Islamic all the way back to like the 1200s. And no, they weren't even close to being that in depth into Africa. The Islamists like to say that they control the entire planet, but they're lying. They're blatantly lying. And this guy, Medhi Hasan, he's a British he's this British guy. Oh, that's that guy from the other day that I was talking crap to. Editor-in-Chief CEO of new media company. He doesn't even capitalize it. Like, this is terrible. Like, this man doesn't understand anything, apparently. He's college educated, and I'm going to screen capture this because I know he's going to change it as soon as I say something about it publicly. He's followed by Greta Thunberg. Yeah, Greta's not one of yours. Trust me. Or don't. I don't care. From what I understand, this guy was connected to terrorists. For those who don't know, the Arabs precipitated the slave trade in Africa with Islam. Like, the Saracens didn't keep slaves. Not in the sense that the Muslims did. Muslims keep chattel, as in, if you're born to a slave in Islamic tradition, you'll always be a slave. There's no way out. You can't buy your freedom in Islam. In the Saracen version, or back when the Saracens or the Babylonians were still around, like way, way back in the history, I made a video about the Saracens the other day. I'm not certain if it made it up yet. My connection's really, really terrible. Verizon is absolutely atrocious for uploads. It's hey, let me, one droplet at a time, we'll get there with the ocean style upload. But the Saracens, when they owned slaves, if you were born to a slave, you weren't immediately cast into slavery. You were, you lived with your parents until you turned an age, and you were either free or you did something that would cause you to become a slave. That's the Saracen version of slavery. I'm not justifying any of this. I'm just saying the system has changed, and Islam didn't make it any better. It made it worse. It means when you're born as a slave, you're always going to be a slave. That's chattel slavery. That's not servitude. That's not indentured servitude on call. Like, no. Even the Romans were nicer to their slaves than these people are. These people are horrific. They say God wills it because you were born to a slave, you'll always be a slave, and your family tree is slaves. They'll even strip your name away. They'll strip your heritage away. You get deracinated. Like you no longer have a race of people. You no longer have a tribe. You no longer have a nation. You no longer have a name. You no longer have a surname. You're just a slave. They might give you a name. They'll give you a name, and it'll be a Muslim name, and that's the name you have to go by. Even if that you'll never be named a Mohammedan if you're a slave of Arabs, of Mohammedans. You'll never get that. And that's Mohammedan, the name Mohammedan. It's a sign of freedom to Arabs. So, I mean, like, Medhi Hasan here, like, his name means something to Arabs. And I don't know, he doesn't even look like an Arab to me. I don't know what he is. He looks kind of like a Mexican. But, you know, I don't know if that's disrespectful to him or Mexicans, but whatever. I'll apologize, but he does look like a Mexican. He does not look like an Arab. So, going back to the conversation, we're trying to stay out of technical things because we don't want to reveal any secrets, trade secrets. Medhi Hasan should not be speaking to Matt Walsh about anything. Matt Walsh's family fought in the revolution. This is verified. We have confirmed it. It is real. His ancestors did fight in the revolution. Whether or not they were his direct ancestors has nothing to do with it. He has just as right to tell you to go away as anyone else in the United States. Because as far as I can tell, you're a recent immigrant and you're British. And the last time we had a British guy here causing trouble for Donald Trump, it was a guy with a gun in a stadium. I believe that was in Arizona, wasn't it? Or was that in Utah or Colorado or somewhere? Donald Trump, this is 2016. Donald Trump was giving he was speaking in front of a crowd and at a rally, and some guy had a gun. He's like going nuts at him. He's like charging the front of the stadium, and it was a British guy that was here illegally. So I'm not surprised. Not that him having a gun is the problem. That, like, for me, that the gun wasn't the problem. Him having a gun definitely was not the consideration for saying that he shouldn't be doing that. It was the fact that what he was trying to do with the gun was shoot down Trump, probably, or somebody else, or maybe he was just grandstanding. Who knows? But that's clearly not something that we should be promoting within the United States, as having British people tell us what to do in the United States, because we already had that vote. And that was in 1776 when we said, no, thank you.